We'll start with the contrasting news about when football can return to Europe. This is what the president of the Spanish FA had to say. Javi Tebas come out and saying, "I do not understand why there would be more danger in playing football behind closed doors with all precautionary measures than working on an assembly line, being on a fishing boat on the high seas, etc. In my opinion, France's decision is hasty. Other countries are already training. That's the example to follow. If important economic sectors cannot restart, they could end up disappearing. That could happen to professional football." Meanwhile, this is what the FIFA chief doctor had to say, Michel Douge. "My proposal is, if it is possible, avoid playing competitive football in the coming weeks. Try to be prepared for the start of good competition next season. Believe me, I regret it profoundly because I'm a football man. I'm a little bit afraid that to have a complete solution, we will have to wait until we have a vaccination program." Meanwhile, this is what the chairman of UEFA's medical committee, Tim Meyer, had to say. "Under these conditions and in full respect of local legislation, it is definitely possible to plan the restart of competition suspended during the 2019-2020 season." In England, a lot of optimism, of course, last week. That seems to have been somewhat diluted by the fact that some players aren't keen to return. To get to the bottom of all of this, I want to welcome in Gab Marcotti and Julien on. And I know it's almost an impossible question to answer, and it's something that, you know, I was very optimistic over the last few days that, yes, things can get back to normal, but France cancelling their season until September was surely a hammer blow for those expecting football to return sooner rather than later. Gab, what do you make of just all of this?
All right, first things first. All those guys you mentioned, everybody is talking from their own perspective. Michel Douge, look, the dude is Belgian. He is head of the medical committee, but it's not like he's gone. He's not an epidemiologist. He hasn't gone and studied this whole thing. He's just kind of giving his opinion. Remember, FIFA don't really have skin in the game in terms of restarting this summer or restarting in September. UEFA, on the other hand, well, they represent the big clubs. And obviously they'd like to finish the Champions League, and they want their stakeholders, the clubs and the leagues, to be able to finish their leagues. So obviously the guy comes out and he says, well, the conditions are there. It would be great if we could restart. Well, yeah, sure, Captain Obvious. If the government say you can play and it's safe to play, then people will play. Javier Tebas, I don't even know where to begin with this guy, making a comparison between playing football, which is a physical sport, and a team sport where you've got people in close quarters with working on an assembly line or going out fishing on the high seas. I mean, look, it's an absurdity, right? The reality here is that governments are going to decide this. They're the ones who are going to give the green light. The situation is different in different countries. There's different sensibilities in different countries. There's different access to medical care in different countries, different access to testing. All these situations are different. In terms of whether they're going to play again, I think the biggest bellwether is going to come on Thursday. That's when we expect the German government to express an opinion on the Bundesliga plan. The Bundesliga have been far and away ahead of everybody else. They want to start potentially as early as May 9th or May 16th. And they'll get, hopefully they should get the thumbs up or the thumbs down from the government. And look, it's the government that's going to have the last word in each of these countries. If they can do it in Germany, then I think other countries have a shot.
The thing that strikes me, Jules, is how different the approach can be, considering France and Spain have had similar curves regarding COVID and the way in which it's developed. How can France be in a situation where, like, right, nothing's going to happen until September, and they got Tebas coming out and saying, look, we want to get back as soon as possible?
It's interesting because obviously the French Prime Minister announcing that yesterday on Tuesday was a big shock. We didn't really see it coming until Tuesday morning when we were briefed that he was going to announce it. They just didn't think that it was safe enough for the players to go back playing, even behind closed doors, for the people around them, the staff, stewards at the clubs, in the stadiums, everybody around, those 300 or 350 people who will have to be in the stadiums, even behind closed doors, that it was not safe enough. The risk was too big to take just for football, with all the implications and financially and everything that you want, of course. But it was still too much of a risk to have those games being played even in June, maybe even in July, August. There was a possibility, but they didn't want to take the risk. It's as simple as that.
Gab, meanwhile, am I right in saying, like, in the UK, the government are very much the driving force behind trying to get football back?
Yeah, and that's actually making the Premier League and some Premier League clubs uncomfortable. The government have briefed that they think it would lift morale if they can come back, and obviously doing it safely. Right now, we're still here in the UK. We're still under lockdown until May 7th, but they certainly back a plan to do it. The trouble is the Premier League. They actually care about their image. They're saying, we don't want to necessarily go back until it's entirely safe, until it's been made clear that we're not diverting resources from elsewhere. I think there's certain Premier League clubs that are asking themselves, wait, is it really worth it? Are all the costs to go and do this safely? Is all of this worth it? And there's also, as our colleague Alex Shaw reporting today, that there's some players who are saying, you know what? I don't trust these guys. I don't feel safe. I don't want to come back. So you've got different stakeholders with different views. But I think the one thing to remember, and I find this really shocking about the Premier League, is that Spain, Germany, and Italy all have very specific protocols that they've released to the public, they've released to the government for examination about how they're going to play when they come back, and they go into great detail. The Premier League haven't done that yet. They meet on Friday. Maybe they'll come up with a plan then. But the fact that they haven't until now kind of makes you wonder whether that appetite to come back is really as strong as some people suggest.
Jules, are your sentiments similar when it comes to Premier League?
Yes, definitely, and obviously the pandemic has hit countries in a different way. You've fought it in a different way. It's under control more or less, or in a different way in different countries. So it's not because France have stopped football that the UK and other countries, England and other countries, have to do it. However, it's just show you that a government of a big country, similar size than England, similar population as well, with a very similar curve of the pandemic, albeit a week later, has taken the decision that it was not safe enough to play. So if Downing Street and the UK government says it's fine, and if all the clubs are happy, and they say, okay, we've seen everything, the protocol makes sense, and there's those tests, there's this, there's that, everything is in place, whether it's in self-isolation or not, or on neutral grounds, or in the same ground, whatever they choose to do it, if everybody give the green lights, and you will have to believe that it's safe enough. However, like Gab said, I can understand if I'm a player, even in a big club, and I understand all the repercussions that not playing anymore can have on my club, on my career, for my fans, for everyone. And if I don't feel it's safe enough to play and I don't want to take the risk, I can understand why those players are not keen on playing so early.
This is all conjecture, and I know this, and and it's not like predicting a score or anything like that, but I am interested, Jules, just personally, how do you feel? Do you think we're going to see football back?
I think we will see football back in England, for example. I can only speak about France and England here from the information I have. I think it will be back in England. Maybe not in June, maybe more at the beginning of July. I still find June very, very early and very ambitious. If you think about the situation right now in the country, again with tests, with people dying, people fighting it, people contracting the virus still every day, I don't think it would be safe enough for football players to go back playing in June. In July, I think it will probably be okay, and that they will do it. I can see the emotional connection that football have with people in the UK, in England, maybe bigger than in France. So I can take that in consideration as well, and I think there will be football, but not before July, in my opinion.
Gab?
I think I think Jules is right. I think there may be football. Again, I'll feel much better about this after we see what happens with Germany. But I think what we might see, even though it's not what the leagues want right now, we might see a situation where football comes back in a reduced form. If there's a way to come back and maybe move to a playoff system to settle European places, settle relegation places, possibly settle champions, but simply play fewer games, more controlled circumstances, you can throw more resource at them, it becomes more cost effective. That might even allow you to finish the Champions League possibly under those circumstances somewhere, somehow. Obviously, we'd be talking July at this point. Then I think right now, if I had to bet, that would be I think the most realistic scenario. But again, this could all change. Let's all sit and observe what Germany do.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.